today, and actually with a stunning lap
qualifying
yesterday. Just not happy with his balaclava there. Just resetting, putting the helmet back on. Just wants everything to be absolutely perfect, Charles. Let's go have a look into the eyes of the young Monegasque. Just wants everything to be perfect, but it's a start where he has to be perfect for. Everybody has to be perfect for this start, and sort of echoes of potentially Singapore 2017 because it's so narrow. This track is so narrow. I think this is only the side. Only Monaco is more narrow than this. So we have a look at the back of Max Verstappen's car. I'll tell you what they did change: the wing, the nose assembly, the rear track rod, both wishbones, upper and lower, the upright, and the power steering as well on Max Verstappen's car needed to be changed. But otherwise, they think they're okay. But they need to park the bus, don't they? Mercedes need to park the bus at the front of this grid, and for that, this narrow track.
Here we go, then.
In their favour.
It is the welcome along to the Saudi Arabia Grand Prix this evening. Tell you what, it is a very dangerous track, Jeddah, and expect a red flag. That's all I'm saying. Expect it, because it is going to be one hell of a race this weekend. It's going to be a real good race. Lewis Hamilton, smoke coming out from his engine. Oh, that's not a very good sign, is it, to have?
I don't think it's in him, to be honest, Simon. I think it's in his nature to be attacking. I think he got Valtteri on the dirty side. I think he'll be thinking exactly that he'll get ahead of Valtteri. If he gets a sniff at Lewis, look out.
Well, there we go then. It is a Saudi Arabia Grand Prix. You are having for a very lucky weekend.
But this race is on for the championship, absolutely.
You lot, I mean, for a very good weekend in my opinion.
This is going to be epic.
This is going to be epic. It is very going to be. It's going to be epic, very epic in my opinion. It's going to be one of the most epic races of the season.
Will happen next. We're about to find out here in Saudi Arabia.
Just going to go get Matty. 2 seconds. I'm here.
For me, one of the best things about life is that we keep moving forward. We discover exciting new technologies, redefine who we are and how we want to lead our lives. Basically, we choose what we want our future to look like. So what's yours going to be?
Jerry's here!
Good to see all of you, yeah.
Why is Jerry so popular? It's been like this ever since we started using Workday. What do you mean? It makes it easier to develop great relationships with our suppliers. Now, everyone, everywhere loves Jerry. They sure do. They do. They really do.
We're back. Don't worry, guys. I'm back. Don't worry about it. I am back. Don't worry, I am back. Don't worry. We're here, don't you worry about that, we are here, and we are still rolling, don't you worry about that.
For those of you watching F1 on Sky Q or Sky Glass, then Sky Race Recap allows you to quickly catch up
Let me try
on
to
all
do
the
this way,
key
2
moments
seconds
from a
guys.
Grand Prix weekend. So if you join late and have missed any of the action, or simply want to go back and watch the best bits once again, then you can. All you have to do is hit the red button on your remote and select Race Recap. A timeline of events will appear that you can navigate through, including the starts, overtakes and all the crucial
don't you worry about that, we're
so whether it's
for the
before,
Saudi
during, or
Arabia
after the
Grand
race,
Prix
Sky Sports F1 is the go-to
evening.
destination for all the best F1
Cheers for liking,
news
whoever
and
liked
action.
it. Thank you very much for liking.
We are witnessing Formula One history play out in front of our
You are going to
eyes.
witness
2 races to
one of the most
finish.
dramatic,
What's next in one of the rivalries for the ages?
the most dramatic races you've ever seen.
Immediately! This is amazing! That was a desperate
Rest in peace
manoeuvre
to
for
Frank
Scott
Oswald,
David
rest in
Hill winning
peace
the
to Frank
championship.
Williams,
And surely
founder
Michael's got the
Williams,
momentum
and
now. Alonso's done it.
And Hamilton's crashed into his teammate. They almost touch. Verstappen stays ahead. The crowd roar their approval for this.
Rivalries.
it's going to be a win.
There's no better feeling than beating a rival.
This race is going to be the best of the season, haven't you, Dan? Going now. Silverstone, what memories?
But also terrifying.
Very bad memories for Max fans, I know that for sure.
Still the best of us.
What a victory for Lewis Hamilton.
Winning is not everything.
Actually, I think
Only thing. win is euphoric.
You are willing to give everything, to beat him.
Max Verstappen wins.
There we go.
He's crushed the opposition.
Lewis, we never give up. Still on.
Damn right.
The thrill, the satisfaction.
He's fourth right.
W. It is a W. It is a fat W. Yes, lads. Yeah, if you don't mind me kind of shouting out young gunner stories, if you don't mind, thank you very much.
We get to witness.
If you don't mind, please shout me out on stories, etc. Try and get me some more fans up. Share a copy link on my stream. Share a copy link. You know what? You know what, lads? Here we go! Shout me out, you know, post me in your stories. Post me. Please do post me. Because this is going to be an epic race this evening. Shout me out. You know what? Yeah, shout me out. Please do. Please do. Welcome to the Saudi Arabia Grand Prix. You get off to do talking.
20 races gone, 2 remain, and for Max Verstappen tonight, it's his first championship points of the season. The first opportunity that he can win his first world title if he outscores Lewis Hamilton by 18 points or more. Mercedes can also seal their crown this year if they outscore Red Bull by 40 points or more. Welcome along to 50 laps around the Jeddah Corniche circuit. It's the longest street circuit on the calendar. It is by far the fastest street circuit on the calendar. And this is a race under the lights for the first time ever here in Saudi Arabia.
Shout me out, bro. Shout me out. You people know how to do it. Oh, yeah, I know.
World Championship. Track distance 3.8 miles. There are 3 DRS zones helping to overtake, we hope.
We hope, yeah, exactly, we hope.
Track, but can you follow closely enough through the 27 corners, the final one of which cost Max Verstappen the chance to take pole position yesterday? The 3 tyre compounds, the C4, the C3 and the C2. Degradation isn't high here, a one-stop race is predicted. But also, the threat of a safety car or a virtual safety car lurks around.
What do you put in the chat in, if you can hear me or not? One of you put in.
Lewis Hamilton on pole for
one
the
of you put in chat whether you can hear me or not.
For the first time, consecutive poles as well. Valtteri Bottas making it a Mercedes front row lockout. Max Verstappen will start third alongside Charles Leclerc.
Yes, one of you put in chat if you can hear me or not.
Fourth this season. Sergio Perez is fifth on the grid alongside Pierre Gasly for AlphaTauri. Behind them, Lando Norris chasing McLaren's first top 8 finish in 4 races, and Yuki Tsunoda. Then comes Esteban Ocon, 9th on the grid alongside Antonio Giovinazzi, his 4th Q3 appearance of the year. Daniel Ricciardo missed out on Q3.
Hopefully it will be a Max DNF.
He starts alongside Kimi Raikkonen in Ralph
it will be.
Alright,
Sam, mate, alright.
Last time out,
thank you,
on the grid tonight. George Russell
Sam, mate, post me on your story. Post me on your story, bro.
Scoring streak on the grid at the moment. He's got Latifi for company ahead of Sebastian Vettel and Lance Stroll in the
People phoning me now. People are fucking phoning me. Why? Yeah, I can hear you loud and clear. Fantastic, mate. Cheers.
Mick Schumacher alongside Nikita Mazepin.
Here we go then. The Saudi Arabia Grand Prix.
Well, a year ago tomorrow, Sergio Perez was winning his first ever Formula One Grand Prix. Tonight, Red Bull are hoping he can aid and support Max Verstappen, and they're hoping that Max Verstappen can make up for the disappointment in qualifying yesterday, where pole would have been his. But for
Max had a very unlucky chance.
Had high drama this weekend. Who's to say we're not in store for a bit more tonight?
Well, we're expecting a flying formation up the front, aren't we, from
Mercedes? Post stories, guys. I couldn't really care less. Please do.
How will Max Verstappen approach this? Is it all guns blazing? Has he got to go for it? He does still have an 8-point lead in the World Championship, of course.
You know this race can go either way. It really can go either way.
Actual safety cars, who knows? Even a red flag. There's nowhere to go if you do crash. And it's difficult to recover the cars.
It is going to be very difficult to recover that car if they do.
Interrupted. Will that play
free watching?
Work against them? Let's see.
Shout me out, come on guys, shout me out. We're going for watching now.
Very keen to get.
Here we go indeed.
Somehow in the first few corners.
Here we go.
But this man.
Welcome along to the Saudi Arabia Grand Prix this evening.
And it'll take some overtaking. There's no doubt about it. It'll be Dan Deere on the brakes into the hairpins if Max Verstappen's going to get past a Mercedes
Thanks,
tonight.
mate. Cheers, Sam.
I really say the best way to run this race is to put on the medium tyre and then go onto the hard compound tyre, and that's what the majority
Here we go,
are
then.
doing.
It is indeed.
Norris starts on the soft compound tyre. Will that give him extra
Hamilton,
grip?
Bottas, Verstappen, Leclerc all start on the medium tyre this evening.
And Sebastian Vettel.
Man, you saw us on Formula 2 race.
Tyres, we've seen the Red Bull light up the tyres a lot quicker than Mercedes so far this week.
Here we go then.
Absolutely right. And what we've also seen from the Formula 2 races are that down into the
Here we go.
if you're on the inside, their left-hand side of the grid is pretty slippery and dusty and not too difficult to sort of lock a brake and struggle to get the car slowed down and
Please
turn
do.
in. There are the drones up in the sky.
Here we go, one.
Down there.
Here we go, the formation lap is live. And off we go in Saudi Arabia.
Just yet, just the formation lap. What Lewis Hamilton will want is not to be spending too much time stationary on the grid by the time he's completed the 3.8 miles of that formation lap. But the longer he spends on the grid, the more those tyres will cool off, and could that give Red Bull just a little advantage at the start? And that start, 220
But thank you
metres
for joining,
down
guys. It
into
means a
turn
lot.
one. We have
It really
seen
does.
incidents, we've seen accidents.
Yeah, it really does
in
mean a
all
lot for
the F2
watching.
races, the
Share the
support
cover like
series
as well.
to Formula
Thank you
One,
very much.
Theo Pourchaire and the young Fittipaldi being taken to hospital after quite a severe crash in the F2 race preceding this. We hope they're
Here we
going to
go.
be okay. No news yet of their condition, but they've both been checked over and taken to the local
Here we
hospital.
go then.
It seems to me, Martin, it's a
One
narrow
stop
track.
strategy
It's
created
not a
by
lot of time to sort things out before you
EWS.
get
Lap
into turn one. We might get
1925
a
for
correction
the
tonight.
medium side to the hard
Wait and see.
on
Let's hope
two
not,
stopper.
but you can see
That
just
may be
how
for
long
Mercedes or Red Bull
elongated
for
the
the
circuit
undercut
is down on the
on
Corniche, down beside the Red Sea. It is the second longest
Here we
circuit
go.
on the F1 calendar after Spa, and therefore that's why it's so long. Why it's got so many corners. F1 cars are flat out through a lot of them and don't really recognise them as corners, but there are some key areas. The two Mercedes took off from the front of the grid, really
For
wanting to
watching.
get some pace and some temperature. And Max Verstappen
Share
less
it.
interested in that.
Share the stream, get more people in here. Come on, guys, let's go.
They want to stretch it out, and they want to get round with some temperature and get the pack as quickly as possible on the grid behind them. Now, they're great views here. They're going to wear
Live watching now. Let's go. Thank you very much for watching this stream. We're about to get underway here in Saudi Arabia.
during the Grand
Skimmed
Prix.
it.
So make sure you don't get those in your own.
Here we go then.
Or your own brake ducts or radiator ducts, for example. And of course we have had incidents where they get into the rear wing
Here we go.
slots, or indeed the radiator ducts of cars behind them.
So in the last four
This
races,
race night is going to be one of the most scariest ones ever.
Throughout 2021. There's the Drivers' Championship standings. There's an 8-point lead for Max Verstappen. Last time he led the championship by 8 points was going into the Hungarian Grand Prix. At the end of that race, Lewis Hamilton led by 8 points. Come the checkered flag. So far this season, Verstappen and Hamilton have had 12 1-2 finishes between them, involving both drivers. Max has won 6, Lewis has won 6. Whatever
This is incredible. Here we go then. It is.
These two have taken each other into a different plane.
You win a world championship over a season, not over a corner or one race. But somehow, when you get down to the final stages of a championship, especially like this one, the tension seems all that much higher, doesn't it?
Yeah, I'm glad we've got headset microphones. My hand's not steady tonight. I'm tense about this. I'm nervous about this because, as Martin rightly says, we are getting right down to the serious business end of the season. And Red Bull have taken the fight.
Here we go then.
They have that lead in the drive.
Here we go. It is it. This is it. We're just waiting for the final few drivers. We're waiting for the final few drivers on the grid.
His start box there.
Then we can.
Lewis less so. There are 8 metres between the cars, so that means that in third place, Verstappen starts 16 metres, just over 3 car lengths behind.
Here we go then. Here we go.
There's the Aston Martin.
Here we go then. We are going to get the green flag. 1 light, 2 lights, 3 lights, 4 lights, 5 lights. Pause. It's flag 7 and away we go. Hamilton gets away beautifully. Valtteri Bottas gets away very beautifully. Max Verstappen, Charles Leclerc going in there. They collide. West Ham Eddies. Charles Leclerc going on the inside of the head. Charles Leclerc on wheel to wheel with Sergio Perez. Hamilton then leads from Bottas, from Verstappen, from Charles Leclerc, from Perez, from Ricardo, from
lock-up was
Max Verstappen locks up as well. What a start to this Grand Prix we have had.
As he was heading towards of the sister Red Bull there.
It is certainly the start that Lewis Hamilton wanted.
What a start for Lewis.
This race. Further behind there's Antonio Giovinazzi fending off the fast-starting Fernando Alonso as round the banked corner at turn 13 we go. Meanwhile, Lewis Hamilton further up the road, stretching away from Bottas and then Verstappen, who's got to stick with the two Mercedes. And there is Yuki Tsunoda and Fernando Alonso going wheel to wheel.
Oh my goodness me! Fernando Alonso going wheel to wheel with Yuki Tsunoda there.
Control of the race.
First Hamilton, then from Bottas to Verstappen from Charles Leclerc to Perez from Norris. What a start we have had.
So Tsunoda has lost places and dropped out.
Tsunoda's dropped places to 12.
Ocon 2 places.
Well done, what a start.
Fernando Alonso a couple as well, and both Vettel and Stroll making up places right at the start as we head towards the final corner.
Oh my goodness! Oh my god!
Kimi Raikkonen in the Alfa.
Kimi Raikkonen is making a move. He's got to and we're going to go for it as well. Down the main straight we go.
Of the Alfa Romeo as
Pierre Gasly next to him, Ricardo. Can he make it stick? Oh, they almost touched. Oh, Kimi locks up behind Carlos Sainz here.
If you don't get the first corner right,
if you don't get that first corner right, you're dead.
So Sainz then beginning to make his way through from his 15th starting position.
Unbelievable scenes here. These are unbelievable.
He's also on a
Hamilton then leads the Saudi Arabia Grand Prix this evening from Charles Leclerc. Charles Leclerc, fantastic start he has had as well. Lando Norris making up his decision at the start. You cannot afford to be messing about very early on in this race.
No data at all, really, for how to run a Grand Prix at this circuit. And even their longer runs on Friday were curtailed by the accident of Charles Leclerc in free practice too. They lost a good 5 minutes of running.
This is absolutely incredible.
In race conditions.
George Russell lost places.
George Russell down to 17th now. Come on, God. Got race control.
In turn 7, and the stewards have noted that particular incident. Doesn't mean they're investigating.
Turn 7 incident. Stroll and Russell is noted by the stewards. We wait and see if they decide to take the further in there. So into the third lap we go then, from Hamilton, from Bottas to Verstappen.
And an extra 10
the DRS open this lap. This is when things do turn crazy.
Any DRS zone at the moment, Valtteri Bottas.
Lewis Hamilton, fastest lap of course it will be.
Really in support of Verstappen, so they've got some options with
Hamilton then is smashing it. He's absolutely smashing it.
He's already
race start and here we go.
They really need Perez.
Oh, Lewis got a beautiful start on.
Into the first.
Valtteri Bottas won a bad start either.
Momentarily, braked quite early, and there was a lock-up from Perez heading towards.
Lock-up from Perez as well. This is actually a real start from the race leaders.
Position, and that's critical for Red Bull. There's a nice start from Verstappen, but the Mercedes.
This is a real, guys. This is a real.
Great formation as well. Max sensibly realising there's no point in trying to go around the outside. He'll just be
what a beautiful start from Lewis. Absolutely incredible start.
Really quick way. Oh, and touching as well.
How did none of them touch on man?
Further back through the pack.
That was Tsunoda and Ocon. We're on board with Ocon right now. Wheels touching floor. Ocon in the Alpine into the Alpha Tauri. Lando Norris made a decent start with those soft tyres. We're on board now with Lance Stroll. That's his teammate Sebastian Vettel slipping through on the inside. George Russell to his left now. And they definitely made contact there as Stroll had to take avoiding action and go off the track.
Yeah, Carlos Sainz across the runoff of between turns 1 and 2 as well.
No!
I noticed on the previous lap, Verstappen just moving out of the slipstream of the Mercedes, not wanting to over.
Max Verstappen is just can't get near Valtteri Bottas this evening. Valtteri is holding Max Verstappen up really well here, I must say.
Control of this Grand Prix, as I said.
I think they've got their tyres switched on now.
Perez is going after Charles Leclerc here. There is it.
Ahead of Yuki Tsunoda, George Russell and Lance Stroll swapping.
Conway, you're looking very fit today. Cheers, mate. Cheers, mate. Appreciate that. Thank you very much. No investigation necessary for Stroll or Russell, we've just heard. So that's good.
Contact at turn 7 on the first lap. So nothing doing from the steward's room there, and confirmation from race control.
Yeah, I think obviously they do apply different sort of.
Thank you very much, lads. Thank you very
to the
much.
opening lap, and we'll consider that.
Thank you very
first
much.
lap skirmish.
On board then with Carlos Sainz, and I mentioned just a couple of moments ago, he got past Yuki Tsunoda in Ferrari.
Carlos Sainz goes past Yuki Tsunoda. What a pass that is! DRS down the main straight. Then down the outside he went, and Carlos Sainz makes that move stick.
Good job. Good job.
Valtteri Bottas did a very good thing for his teammate Lewis Hamilton by covering off that inside,
Jamie,
not allowing Max
thank you very much for joining Power Legend. 6 viewers now.
Place to try and overtake.
Well, because they learned the painful way, didn't they? Back in Mexico,
trying to, man. Chicken as well.
They were so busy covering the middle and the right of the track. Max was sailing down the outside, took the lead and won the Grand Prix.
Perez.
All right, Jamie.
Charles Leclerc in the battle for 4th place at the moment.
Cheers for joining, Jamie.
Takes the new fastest lap of the race, and don't get an extra point for that. That might be crucial. Come the end of the season, Ted Kravitz, down to you.
So quiet pit lane at the moment, not too well, about 20 laps. We're seeing the first people to pit. Maybe
this has been a very
earlier. Lando
boring race, must it?
First one because he started to drop away quite considerably on those soft tyres from Sergio Perez. Not really being caught from behind by Esteban Ocon, but holding his own in P6. And
what a pass! Yeah, it's a beautiful pass from Carlos Sainz, mate. It's a beautiful pass.
He needs to cool his brakes on the AlphaTauri.
Valtteri Bottas then, trying to catch Lewis, but yeah, I'm pretty sure Bottas will play smart for Mercedes and let Lewis have the lead. That's unless Max will go past him.
6-second lead now. We've said this before, Martin. Does he need to keep Valtteri Bottas?
There goes Kimi Räikkönen and Yuki Tsunoda, but they're going to come down to the main straight, I reckon.
Both of them a little further away from Max.
This is such a dangerous track, but so.
Stayed with full tanks of fuel of overheating motors, overheating brakes in particular, until they burn some of their maximum 110 kilograms of fuel off. But it is muggy out there.
Turn 21.
76% humidity.
Jason, who do you think's going to win this race? Well, my opinion could come down to the undercut, or Lewis might just go for it. So I'm saying for the top 3, I'm saying Lewis for the win, Max in second and Charles in third. Calling it now. Charles Leclerc will come third.
More scope with the brake balance, but what Bottas is
Charles will come
is
third.
a bit more gap in front. He's obviously feeling like he needs to apply Max is going to apply the pressure. He wants a bit more gap from him to Lewis.
Here comes Antonio Giovinazzi in 11th place. He's behind Fernando Alonso. Goes very deep there into turn 1. Stays ahead of Giovinazzi by using the runoff area. Gets ahead quite nicely.
That's tight. That is tight. That is so tight.
Looking at that, well, they will be looking at it, but I think Fernando quite sensibly, because he's usually got.
Yes, I'm so cheers for your question. Yeah, I think Lewis will win this.
The gap wasn't too big.
Pit lane.
He used the runoff area to fail to lose a place.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
What his tyres?
Team Radio.
Let us know if you're not happy with Lewis' pace and you think you're under threat.
Yeah, if you do go a bit more gap in front.
Yeah, in other words, I don't want to be driving along in.
Max is gaining on Valtteri Bottas.
In the turbulent air of Lewis, if he's got some pace,
Max is gaining.
Stretch this out a bit.
The thing is, Mercedes don't want him driving along in turbulent air. They don't want anything that might force an early pit stop, maybe, for Valtteri Bottas, because at the moment, for Mercedes and for Lewis Hamilton, this is
coming down to fire.
Starting scenario, isn't it?
Fernando Alonso and Antonio Giovinazzi looking. They're going to battle it out, I think.
At the moment, plus the extra point for that fastest lap.
Fernando Alonso. Here we go, and down in the main straight. Fernando Alonso uses all that road, goes off the track, and then uses a turn-off circle back on. Now, in my opinion, I reckon Giovinazzi should get that place. Giovinazzi should get that place, I think, because it is stupid what he has done there. Pierre Gasly, oh, what a pass! What a pass that is, wow. Giovinazzi got past Fernando Alonso. What a pass that is, well done to Antonio Giovinazzi.
Alonso's lost a place to the Alfa Romeo. He might lose a place to the Ferrari here, because Sainz is quickly on the scene as well.
Yeah, Carlos Sainz catching his hero, of course, Fernando Alonso, from when he was a kid. The two Spaniards going at it now, and the Alpine looking a bit tail happy through there, it must be said. Fernando Alonso struggling a bit for pace at the moment. So the drag reduction system does work.
How have they not hit the wall? Oh my goodness me.
We saw again.
There's a this game. Oh, my damn, they're in straight. Antonio Giovinazzi. Oh, he almost crashed.
Good job, Antonio.
Fantastic from Antonio Giovinazzi there. Fantastic.
Go around the outside of Fernando Alonso.
And making a very nice move indeed.
But fantastic race so far, 7 laps in this race. Pierre Gasly fighting Daniel Ricciardo. Daniel just can't get past him, it's just stupid. That's a McLaren with full straight line speed, cannot get past AlphaTauri. That's embarrassing. That's absolutely embarrassing.
Economical with his language as ever.
I didn't even hear it. Can I have a quick word? Yes, and that was it. I think that's what he said. That's my words.
That was it. Here comes the McLaren.
Here comes Daniel Ricciardo.
Daniel Ricciardo powering.
Ricciardo powering. He's got past Gasly.
Move done long before the braking zone into turn 1. Carlos Sainz is going to have a go at his hero then. Down inside goes Carlos
Down inside.
Sainz. Keeps the Ferrari under control.
And at the same time, Carlos Sainz got past Fernando Alonso. 2 places down, Fernando Alonso.
And they're getting bypassed, I should say. And Daniel Ricciardo getting past Pierre Gasly.
And Carlos on the hard compound tyres as well. So he's a long way into this race. He said on the grid, didn't he? When I asked him, you know, is it play the long game?
Sorry.
But it certainly looks like the long game on those tyres. And he's pushing nicely.
He's pushing very nicely indeed.
Sorry to my lord.
Trying to get into the points after a few pointless races for the Australia of late.
That is my boss close.
A little simpler than Carlos Sainz's.
Yeah, I don't think Fernando fought that too hard. I think he realised the pace of the Ferrari, and as we said, Sainz is out of position really for the potential of his car. Fernando realised that that's not his race this evening.
Ricciardo pointless in 3 races, the last 3 races, and in 4 of the last 5. Carlos Sainz, by the way, we say longest active scoring streak on the grid. It is 13 races in a row. He's failed to reach Q3 on 5 of those, and 1 for this weekend. That's 6. And Sainz on the fringes of the points at the moment in 11th place. Ted, down to you.
But Fernando is fighting some gremlins in that car. I can tell you, Crofty. On the radio, he's saying he's struggling with the hybrid system, with the deployment of the electric charge through his rear axle. So that's one thing. The DRS wasn't working for him a few laps ago, but I think that's fixed itself. So Alonso not entirely happy, and it's under attack now.
Lap 9, here we go then. Yuki trying to get past. Oh, that was close. Too close in my opinion. Too close. Way too close.
With Verstappen behind.
That's why on lap 8 he set the new fastest lap of the race, and he's continuing to push here on lap 9 as well. 2 seconds, 2.5 seconds the lead between Hamilton and Bottas, with Verstappen, well, just on the fringes of getting some DRS assistance behind Valtteri Bottas.
This is incredible.
Time, I'm sure, and strike when he feels the moment is right. But the top 3 already pulling away quite nicely from Charles Leclerc, running in 4th. Leclerc pulling away from Perez, who was fighting him at the early stages, but has had to drop back just a little bit.
Max Verstappen doing 2 personal bests on this lap. I think he's comfortably able to stay in touch with the Mercedes. And how much is that going to cost him? A mistake on the way into the final corner yesterday. It was Hero Zero stuff, wasn't it, in terms of a glorious pole or a difficult 3rd place?
Well, he would have been on pole, and it was a super flying lap, but as Ant said, it was going bad to finish first. First you have to finish, and he didn't get to the line after
there goes Carlos Sainz and on Giovinazzi.
They think everything is okay. So far, so good as Giovinazzi keeps ahead of Sainz, but for
yellow flag! Here we go! He's colliding!
Is Mick Schumacher.
Mick Schumacher has gone off! It's going off! Michael Schumacher is out of the Saudi Arabia Grand Prix! Unbelievable! Unbelievable scenes!
Of the evening.
Michael Schumacher is out!
Are you okay, Mick?
He's out! Unbelievable! He is out of there!
That's gone in quite hard, Martin, but it's difficult not
He's
to
out.
Hard on this fast circuit.
Yeah,
he's out! It's a safety car now! Safety car deployed!
So, do you pit then? Do you pit at the moment if you're Mercedes?
That's only a red flag.
Or Stroll and Russell.
That's a red flag. Sorry, a red flag.
A very good position to come
no red flag given yet. Yet though.
Turn 19 19 at the moment.
Oh, fucking hell, his car is
Bottas
fucked.
ahead of
His car is so fucked.
Mercedes had the chance.
Yeah,
of a
the
double
car's
stack,
10 in
because
your
there
own
is
company.
enough of a gap between Hamilton and
They always
Bottas.
do.
But
When
it's a
about
good
that?
question. It's right on the fringes of going onto the hard
Mate,
tyre
Michael,
and
it's-
lasting for the rest of the race.
Well,
Absolutely.
That's
That'd
sorry
be a
damage,
long
though. That is
time
damage.
up as well.
And
But
half.
you can't afford to leave your pit stop later into the safety car period.
oh, there we go.
So we are going to box.
Is the answer.
Box.
Also the hards, which
Oh!
may well go to the
Someone
end of the
coming
Grand
in.
Prix. But this, I think, plays into Mercedes' hand again in that respect.
Cheers, Sam.
But, Lewis then scampering off.
How is this not a red flag? Gee. That is so risky. It's so risky. It really is risky.
Slow down too much and hold
How's that not
your
a-
rivals.
what?
Red Bull will
How's
be
that
chewing
not a red
about that.
flag?
I think Max Verstappen is going to stay out here as Hamilton comes in.
Hamilton's coming in for a stop, then.
Yeah, so we've already had some action in here. George Russell has overtaken Lance Stroll in the pits. So that's a nice stop. With the medium tyres, it's a little bit too early, but those hard tyres, nice stop for Mercedes. Those hard tyres could now go to end.
How was
But it's a bit of a
not
push.
the,
I think
how is
they're
that
also
not a red?
thinking Mercedes that there might
How
be
is that not a red
safety
flag?
cars.
How?
Ferrari comes in. Valtteri Bottas follows his team leader into the pits as well. And there is the Red Bull of Sergio Perez. So Max Verstappen has taken track position. That's very good. I'm expecting Lando Norris into the pits. You can see him now, Crofty.
Yeah, he was on the soft tyre. A bit of a no-brainer for Lando Norris to come in. But this is, well, for Red Bull, do the opposite of what Mercedes do. Verstappen stays out and
That
takes
is
the lead of
ridiculous.
this race. Hamilton and Bottas
Talk about
pit.
safety. Talk about
Red Bull
safety of the
gambling
driver.
here on another safety car where Verstappen could come in and get a cheap pit stop again, but hold on to the lead. Or could they get caught
That's
out? Let me
stupid.
find out.
That's just stupid. That is
That's
stupid.
the right word, isn't it? In terms of course, you don't know what incident.
How is that not a red
There's
flag?
a very good
How?
chance there'll be some kind of virtual safety car or actual safety car later on, and we call it a cheap pit stop because you pit, you're in the pit lane while your rivals are going much slower than normal, of course. So it costs you the pain is about half. What can you tell us, Paul?
I can't tell you anything, but the only thing I'm going to throw
That is disgusting from the FIA. How is that not a red flag? That is stupid.
This is a fact.
Absolutely
You start
stupid.
taking the gauge out the tyre, there's construction concern, I would say.
You know, come on.
2 seconds, Paul.
Valtteri's driving massively off the pace.
I agree. It's absolutely.
That shouldn't be allowed when he
When
does.
does the spin start coming?
Right, so
It's not.
5:20
it's absolutely
PM
not
we
allowed
know.
under the regulations. You can't do that.
and he's doing that to allow Mercedes the chance for the double stack to service both Lewis and Valtteri comfortably during their pit stop. But he was, he was a lot further behind Lewis Hamilton when he came into the pit lane than he was when the safety car first came out. What the stewards now have to decide, Martin, is did he go too slowly? That is how Mick Schumacher ended up into the barriers.
Yeah, it's very like Charles Leclerc, isn't it? When the back end stepped out on the way into 22. And I'm afraid, straight into a cul-de-sac at that point, and you can see how well it absorbed it all.
Thick layers of Tecro barrier to the right-hand side. You've also got 6 layers of tyres to help absorb the energy of a Formula One car arriving into turn 22 at around about 155 miles an hour.
That's disgusting from the FIA. It really is disgusting.
Can the safety car go faster? We're driving 100.
When we're driving 100. Fuck off.
I'm sure Bert Mailander is more than capable of doing so, but he's not in a Formula One car. He's in an Aston Martin Vantage for the course of this weekend. You can see it for the little respray of the paint as well. Saudi Arabian green.
Well done, Bottas.
Safety car.
What a lad.
So
What
this
a
is
lad.
how the order now looks. Verstappen leading, hasn't pitted. Hamilton and Bottas, second and third, have pitted. Ocon hasn't pitted, neither has Ricciardo. Ocon fourth, Ricciardo fifth. Then after that, Charles Leclerc, who has made his pit stop. This is Carlos Sainz, his teammate at Ferrari.
That's disgusting from the FIA.
Did he overtake there after the safety car lights had come on? Sainz getting past Antonio Giovinazzi, but were the safety car lights on to stop all overtaking before that move down the main straight? The stewards will be looking very closely at that. and if so, demanding at the very least that he gives the place back. After Charles Leclerc, Pierre Gasly runs 7th at the moment. Gasly
could be a penalty for Carlos Sainz here.
Has stopped. Sainz, Giovinazzi, Tsunoda, Raikkonen and Vettel haven't stopped. Norris, Alonso, Mazepin. Norris.
Need more views on this, lads. Come on.
Mazepin hasn't. Russell, Stroll, Latifi have.
Yeah, we're more dirty by Bottas. It really was more dirty by Bottas, but
completely bunch up
it's
this.
still very cheeky, isn't it? 4 likes. We're rounding all off.
To buy more time while they're around the other side of the track to clear the accident away. It is, you know, there's some instruction goes on as well. It's not all about.
How's not a red flag? I don't know.
We know how fast Ben can drive that car. Keep the race going. Max is not happy because his F1 car feels like it's ticking over, basically.
Still,
Ted, let's head down to you.
So yeah, just to expand on the Stroll Russell fight. I know this seems sort of
not a sport, sadly.
You know,
yes, it is a sport.
But Russell was incensed. He was furious that Stroll was allowed to keep the place after Russell believed that Stroll passed him off track at the beginning. Crofty, you said no investigation was necessary. So initially, Stroll had been told to give the place back to Russell. Then the steward said no investigation necessary, so Stroll kept position, much to George's annoyance. That's why George, I think, and Williams are so happy that because Lance had a slow pit stop, George was able
stop
to
the
take
safety
the
car,
place
but
back
he still do have a safety
car.
car.
That's that story clear.
Formula
But,
1 Saudi Arabia Grand Prix 2021 and next
Mercedes
week's
or
the
Red
end.
Bull for pitting under the safety car.
sad,
We'll find
really.
out, but really, Red Bull had no alternative. He had to stay out. Had he pitted Verstappen, he would have only guaranteed to stay behind the Max, hadn't he? So he had to stay.
Lewis Hamilton then is in second, just behind Max Verstappen, with the safety car out and deployed. Michael Schumacher is injured out of the race after a huge crash.
Mercedes can go to the end of this race on the hard compound tyre. Max has got to build up a gap of 20 seconds or more to stay ahead of this race when he does pit.
Yeah, according to Mercedes, it's 23 seconds to trundle down the pit lane without a stop.
Yes.
But around that time, we get slightly different numbers from different teams. But of course, you've also got to consider then Charles Leclerc in there, who has pitted. You know, where will he come up? But it hasn't worked out for Sergio Perez by pitting him because he's back down in 8th place now. And that's going to.
Will the safety car going
back under the way? But at least Max can now see what Red Bull are doing. You know, I said it a couple of times, didn't I? Mercedes are totally in control of this race.
Yeah.
They had to do something to take that control away. If they'd just followed
You
Mercedes
don't like Formula 1, what are you doing?
they'd have been
Fuck
on an identical
Fuck
strategy. Third on the
Fuck off, you little twat. Fuck off.
At first glance, Verstappen leading Hamilton, that looks absolutely great for Red Bull. But he does.
Yeah, I beg the safety car goes in. I beg as well.
Change a tyre compound during this race, and they're now red
flag! It is a red flag! Red flag! It is a red flag! Red flag!
Because the one thing you can do when
red flag, here we go, it's a red flag!
When you return to the pit lane, you can make your
red flag! It's a red!
20-second gap that Max Verstappen had to build up before his pit stop has been wiped out by the red flag. And if you're talking about moments that decide a world championship, well, this
is a red flag here in Saudi Arabia. Red flag, expected.
Safer barrier there, and put it back into line, and they'll come into the pit lane. And then they line up, and you're absolutely right, they can change the tyres.
This is going to be controversial, not because Michael Massey, the race director, has suspended the race and thrown the red flag. You have to put safety very much at the forefront of every decision he makes.
Red flag then.
But in a
we expected this weekend.
This now becomes very controversial, and we've had it before. Should you be allowed to change tyres during the red flag unless your tyres are damaged in some way? Because this has absolutely played into Red Bull's hands tonight. On a track
you say it's not orange? Yeah, very good, mate. Very good.
Hasn't been given a cheap pit stop, he's been given a free one.
Well, Lewis had the same service
what a
back
free
in
pit stop that is.
Remember.
What a free pit stop.
Does it not mean you can change tyres?
Unfortunately, Lewis, yes, it does.
No.
Things do even themselves up. You're absolutely
Can't
right.
believe that.
I'm not expecting
Now then, boys,
one way or
let's
the
talk.
other, I'm just saying.
Let's talk now that the red flags here. What we're going to do then?
Identical.
Let's talk about.
Specification and weight. If you've got a damage.
Let's
car,
talk about Permley.
So
Yeah, let's talk about Permley. Why not?
At this
Permley.
point, they can approach the car, do some. Of course, as soon as the car.
This could be vital. This is going to be vital.
Those lights go out.
As we saw with Sergio Perez in Spa.
Yeah. You talk about gambling. I mean, a roll of the dice. I must admit, I didn't envisage a red flag at that point. But if you looked at the way the layers of the
Max comes out first in the red flag.
There had been
what a mercy.
You know, concertina. I guess Michael Massey wants to get out there and straighten them out, but it's a dodgy old corner, isn't it? We've seen too many incidents in there. But the trouble is, if you have any kind of problem, you're guaranteed to go in that wall.
Yeah, absolutely.
Red flag here.
There's no avoiding it whatsoever.
Yeah, if you're just joining red flag here in Jeddah.
Red flag. The firewall looks fine. Find out what the reason for a red flag is.
Lewis Hamilton is. Shall we say that Lewis Hamilton is joining those that might be a little suspicious for whatever reason.
Why is Lewis complaining here? Why is Lewis complaining about that for? Why is he complaining? The driver safety corner on first, Lewis.
Michael Massey, red flag.
Yes, I love you.
Didn't resume that
because I think now he knows now that his championship could be over with in a flash. So this is vital.
And is feeling very much that there's another reason behind the decision. All I'm saying is that Michael Massey did very much the same thing when we had a similar incident in FP2 when Charles Leclerc crashed. But he's in the heat of combat at the moment in a very tense championship
Lewis just gets that car, I know.
So they said what the reason is?
Not heard anything yet.
That's unbelievable, man. Firewall looks fine. James, that was a big gamble that they just took. Because we're right behind them on the SC, that doesn't even make sense. Does it make sense to you?
It's a gamble because they stopped Perez and most people stopped in the top 10. Not 100% sense, no. It's a risk we knew with that red flag, but we didn't think it's going to happen. We have potential. I'll come down to see you. There's still possibilities for us.
That's James Bowles, the chief strategy engineer.
Well, that was interesting, wasn't it?
I was looking at.
Lewis now going complaining about the tyre wall and why they stopped the race. But they stopped it for reasons, obviously.
Were significant, I must say.
They get a grip, come on, yourself,
top tyre in at about 3.5 degrees camber, so the inside is extra loaded and. Quite surprising there when we saw that.
This is just ridiculous. As we look again here.
Of course, this is what brought out the red flag.
Oh,
do you know what? I can't see anything
that's
wrong.
Gonna hurt.
Turned into the corner and the back wouldn't live with it.
Just like the cloud.
Yeah.
We had 4 laps. What a job.
It was a nice sweep of the steering wheel into the corner.
That is massive. And yeah, the red flag is out.
Is that the red flag that will make a big difference in this year's World Championship?
This red flag is going to be crucial, but not wrong.
For Lewis Hamilton, advantage Red Bull in this race. I am no expert.
This is advantage. What a joke. Yeah, it's a joke, really. How about that? But this is really a joke, to be fair.
I think
it's
really,
it's a hard one, to be fair.
The problem is, another car that goes off
should they have stopped it?
To hit the same area.
I mean, yeah, if Lewis was complaining, if it would be, you know, yeah, it'd be alright, but yeah, that's a joke in my opinion. That's an absolute joke.
And there it is. Yes, that's a roll of the dice, and it was a 6 for them.
That's all way now, probably.
Long way to go. Mercedes still has a very good straight line.
That's unless something dramatic happens.
All of a sudden,
they're both touching now.
Position.
This is actually incredible.
Red Bull because they'll restart without DRS for a couple of laps now. Well, they could have. Of course, there could well be a standing start. Almost certainly will be a standing start restart.
Well, this is
not a rolling start.
We didn't get it in F2.
This is really joke. Yeah, this is
the red flag there, but the option is available to Michael Massey at race control to have a standing start in this race. I'm sure Max Verstappen would love to see a rolling start. Probably easier to defend that lead at the start.
Of course, they're all preloaded with fluids for the Grand
This
Prix.
is
So there'll be a
unbelievable.
polite queue at the gym. It's like, no, after you. No, after you. Unlike the first corner.
The one thing I am going to say,
And it
and
has
it's not just
destroyed us.
affecting Lewis Hamilton here. A lot of people made that pit stop behind the safety car because that strategically seemed the obvious thing to do. That's what James Vowles was certainly saying to Lewis Hamilton.
Now, yes.
The likes of Lando
6.
Norris, for instance, the likes of Fernando Alonso.
Past
they
6
too
now
have
and
been hampered by this
what are they
red
going
flag.
to
Should you
do?
be
Because the
allowed
World
to check
Championship
tyres?
table stands like Max Verstappen 376.5.
Under a red
This
flag.
is going to come down to wire.
Both of those opportunities away, then you wouldn't get conversations akin to the one Lewis Hamilton has just had.
Free watching. Who's storming? Type your name in the comments and I'll give you a shout out.
When Lewis had been in the
Free watching. Type your name in the comments. Yeah, now shout you out.
Lewis was a lap behind, or about to be a lap
Yeah,
behind.
Jamie Tyres on the Maxi car.
Unlapped himself behind the safety car,
and gets the damage repaired. And
Michael Schumacher, he's fine. He's not hurting
what goes around
anyway.
comes around to an extent, but that's what the rules say. Whether it's right or not, we have discussed it. Did Ricciardo lose?
We could see another red flag in this race. This race could end at 9 o'clock.
New tyres were fitted at the end,
it really could.
dramatically affected.
Race control. Race will resume in 10 minutes time. 10 minutes time.
Yeah, Crofty, I've got
10 minutes time.
for you down here. The word in the pit lane from the team managers is indeed that what Martin was saying is accurate.
10 minutes then, till we get back underway.
Is punctured, and they need to get a crane onto the track at that corner to actually pick it up.
10 minutes.
They're all joined.
That's a bit risky. That is risky.
You know, some plastic clay bricks, really. They're all joined to each other, and they need to get a crane
That is risky.
to lift it up
That is
and
risky.
replace that punctured, damaged bit of Tecpro barrier at that point. And the danger is they don't want to leave it. Sometimes you could leave it, maybe, but there's a very high likelihood that somebody else, if
Come
they went
raise
off
it
there,
too, that
could
is
do
Johnny
that, and then they couldn't restart the race or continue it, knowing that
No,
there
it's
was
not
damage to
true,
the
that,
Tecpro
no.
barrier in there.
That's absolutely what I was saying.
Yeah.
Michael Massey's first thought is always safety, safety, safety. So on this occasion, Ted, thanks for the explanation on that one. You can understand why the red flag came about. Let's go to Sky Race Control. Paul di Resta.
Just thinking, Crofty, I'm just thinking, what would you do if you're Mercedes? Do you accept your P2, try and race with someone to regain track position on the same tyre? Or do you throw a soft tyre at it to get the track position, push off into the distance if you can, then pit stop onto a fresher set of tyres and then make a comeback and make an impact at the end of the race?
All of which is complicated, Martin Brundle, by the fact Mercedes haven't switched on the soft tyres very quickly this weekend so far.
We're fucked with that.
I'd be alarmed looking at that.
Two watching now, come on, come back on, come on, don't be
there,
sad.
Max Verstappen with, I don't know if we could get to see that again and just see what was going on the inside shoulder of his right foot. It's an anti-clockwise circuit, so inevitably you're going to turn left eventually more times than you turn right and punish the right-hand side tyres. Of course those tyres have long gone out of the system.
I don't know about this really, the race is resuming in
I'm assuming
7
Red Bull
minutes.
will put a set of hard compounds on that and get them to the end, but as you rightly say, what will Mercedes try and do now? Will they try and do a counter strategy from there?
Yeah, and don't forget Lando Norris, who might be 14th at the moment, had an excellent start on the soft compound tyres. A good point you make there, Paul. Right, let's head down to the Sky pad. Anthony Davidson.
Yeah, seeing as we've got time, Crofty, we'll have a look at the start here.
Joke.
So I'm looking at this.
Now we all know what's going to happen now, then, don't we?
I'm just looking
we
at
all
this
know
gap.
that now.
Keep your eye on
Lewis
that
has done that,
distance
he's just
between
going to be
Verstappen and
absolutely
Hamilton.
flying.
Verstappen's initial launch is quite good.
Struggling on the hard tyre with maximum mediums.
As they get towards
it's just
turn
going to
one
be
before the braking zones. That's of interest and could be quite poignant as well. Come for this restart, if it is obviously a standing start, it's up to the discretion of Michael Massey and the race director.
Did we get a standing start or a rolling start, they call it?
So Bottas on the inside, not too bad. You can see it's dusty on the inside, but it's not really affecting so much the getaway. This is quite interesting fight here, but more so Ocon
it's a standing start.
and Yuki Tsunoda heading towards turn one, who actually ends up getting squeezed and hitting the wall. Then we got this moment with Perez locking up.
Max could seriously win the World Championship today.
Teammate, so lucky to get away with that one, but obviously carrying a bit of a flat spot as well. And the rest of them thread through fairly unscathed, so I was glad to see that because it's been pretty chaotic, I must say, in all of the F2 races building up to this one.
They're arguing.
Like from on board with Max once again. So that initial getaway was okay, but then he starts to lose ground here. Not sure exactly what happened there.
I don't know about that
but
one.
He'll be hoping for a better start starting this race from the front. Then you've got Sergio Perez.
So I don't know about that one, mate.
Down slightly.
You've got four watching. Welcome to the stream. Welcome.
From his point of view, so close. You see that flat spot just rotating there. Then on board with Ocon. This is what it looked like with Tsunoda coming across. Nowhere to go, obviously, on a street circuit. And just getting squeezed and actually hitting that wall. That was very lucky to get away with it. Then we have obviously the crash, but the thing that was interesting, I thought that Russell might have squeezed Stroll off of the circuit, but actually he didn't. I'll just fast forward actually to that point.
But yeah, it's
Here comes Stroll
we're getting back
so
on the main 5
goes off,
minutes time.
Takes avoiding action, but I don't think there was anything really to avoid. I was expecting riding on board with Russell that he would have squeezed him off the track, but he didn't. Back to you, Crofty.
Back to Crofty.
Thanks ever so much indeed, Ants. Good to have you with us down the Sky.
Max Verstappen's done now talking.
At the start, Jos Verstappen checking a few messages that he's received on his mobile phone, and Max Verstappen is now back in the car, as are the rest of the drivers.
Max,
and we should get a restart in about 5 minutes' time. Poor dear Martin Brundle. You know that tension at the start that we had before? Prepare for tension part 2.
I think so, and I can't see any reason why it wouldn't be a standing start from here. Normally you only do a rolling start if it's wet or visibility or something that is particularly risky. We'll see what race control.
Hey, stop shouting in there! Try and stream here.
Here in Jeddah this evening, the risk of rain is.
Who's Johnny Sins? No idea, mate. That's why I've been
Bob asking. Getting out of the cars here in the pit lane have looked like they've been half an hour, 10 laps taller. Never mind. Yeah. Well,
come on, guys. Up the views, up the views, up the views, up the views, up the views,
up the views. But all the teams' grid trolleys, now the pit lane trolleys being wheeled back past me, back into the paddock. The other big loser, of course, Lando Norris.
6 to 14.
Having stopped under the safety car.
These fans having the right time here. The fans having the right time.
But I haven't even really bothered asking Mercedes whether they're fine, whether they're cool with this red flag after people have pitted, because it's a fairly standard thing, isn't it, Crofty? It's happened before quite a few times. I remember Sebastian Vettel won his first race for Ferrari at Malaysia, was it not? When he stayed out because they anticipated a red flag, and then he was able to change his tyres under the red flag.
And often teams will, because they'll get a feed. Martin
thank you very much, guys.
We'll confirm this, a feed of the accident zone, and they'll know the highly likely chance of a red flag. I think on this occasion, Martin, we're here for the first time in Jeddah. They've got no previous historical data, and they probably didn't see the corner to see how bad the damage was.
I didn't look at that and think.
Conway's looking fine today.
Full safety car, not virtual safety car, so you could get the pack in one defined area at any given time. Didn't immediately think red flag.
I'm putting to radio.
So James, what's the scenario now? What we got to do?
Hi Lewis, main thing is this. Everyone's going to go to the end of the race on these hard tyres now, but you had Carl Pace at the beginning, and there's a few options we could throw in there with additional VSCs and safety cars. Main thing for now is pressure him. You have Carl Pace.
He has nothing to lose. He has to put pressure on Max Verstappen, and he starts. Well, let's look at the start, Martin. Right behind Max Verstappen, and on the inside.
He does, but he's on now used hard tyres, because that radio call confirms it will be. They all had one new set of hard tyres. Mercedes put those on. Okay, they've only trundled around, haven't they, behind the safety car? But Max has got a brand new set going on there that will come out of the blankets and be given just that little bit more grip. Those that started the race on hard tyres, like Carlos Sainz, didn't struggle too much. We wondered if Mercedes might try to give their drivers a softer tyre to get into the first corner, but that's a short-term gain, isn't it? They've got to get those into the race. So Mercedes obviously feel totally comfortable that these tyres tyres will do 37 laps.
Would they? They will have had time to take those tyres off, put them into the blankets in the garage?
Yeah. Oh yes, yeah, they'll warm them up. No doubt.
Here we go then.
So what will look like a 10 or 11 point deficit in the race for Verstappen
is now turned into, well, 7 points advantage in the championship if it stays like this.
Well, this is going to be interesting, isn't it?
Make that 6 points advantage because, of course, Hamilton has the fastest lap at the moment.
Yeah.
And we've seen a few first corner incidents, we've seen a few first lap incidents over the course of this season. I'd rather get the feeling if Verstappen and Hamilton get away equally, we might just see another one here.
Well, this is now on what is the dirtier side of the grid, unfortunately for him, and he's 8 metres behind before he gets going, which is a car and a half. So
Max on Hartz, never mind. Max on Hartz.
There are those brand spanking new, shiny, hard compound tyres for young Max Verstappen. There's a long way to go yet, and as you can see, the tyres there of Lewis have trundled round behind the safety car.
So we've had a red flag in a 6th different race in 2021. The big losers were
here we go then.
Went down to 6th from 4th, Sergio Perez. 8th from 5th, Lando Norris. 14th from 6th, Fernando Alonso. 15th from 11th. The gainers.
Here we go then.
Pierre Gasly up to 7th. Daniel Ricciardo up to 5th. Esteban Ocon up to 4th. Max Verstappen up to 1st, and it's Verstappen then that leads the cars away for the next formation lap, the second formation lap, and we've had no indication whatsoever from race control, but we are expecting this to be another standing start.
Standing start, yes!
It wouldn't be, but of course, you know, had Max have been on pole position, Mercedes might have played that card just now, and it's just the luck of the draw, isn't it?
In a sport where everything is predicted down to the most minimal fraction of a second, where nothing is left to chance.
He just did a start from the pit lane. No, that's who started, right? And he did a practice start.
Well, they all on their lap to the grid, most on their lap to the grid, did do a start from the pit lane.
Did they? I was on the grid, so I didn't see it. But
I was watching Ted get very excited.
Yeah, so normally they've been practicing.
That was.
Yeah, he just needed to make sure he didn't go above the speed limit while he's there. So it is a standing start. The safety car will enter the pits. Of course, nobody's been lapped, so we didn't have the procedure of letting the lap cars through, because the only car that's behind is sadly Mick Schumacher, who was in the fence.
And great to see Mick walking away from that accident.
But why is the safety car driving so slow? We cannot heat the tires.
Matt's complaining yet again.
Like I say, a sport where nothing is left to chance. Verstappen knows that he wants to light up those tyres and generate as much heat before he then stands on the grid and waits for everyone else to line up. You can bet your bottom dollar Lewis Hamilton won't be that close by the time they come round onto the grid. We saw that work to great effect in Brazil.
Yeah. Oh, your hand would be shaking on that clutch paddle, wouldn't it, behind the steering wheel? This is such a critical restart.
The field is all packed together, but how much of a gap will Hamilton leave behind Verstappen? That's a lengthy gap, as they're only just coming around to turn 21 now.
Yeah, you're supposed to keep within 10 car lengths of the car in front of you.
Which car? Stretch limo?
Mate, Lewis is leaving way more than 10 cars. It's not okay.
You've been in more stretch limos than me. You can be the adjudicator on that one.
It's just over 5 weeks.
Here we go.
So basically, yeah, Max wants to get some heat into those new hard tyres.
And Hamilton will do the same thing, but he'll jam the brakes on first and make his way to the grid. Mercedes gambled behind the safety car to bring Lewis Hamilton and Valtteri Bottas in. They conceded track position to Max Verstappen as Red Bull took their own gamble to keep Max out of the track, but it's kept him in front.
But it's still more than 10 cars. This is not allowed.
He's getting agitated now.
Yeah, Lewis playing all the tricks in the book. And of course every driver now has to work out which grid slot they're going back to, because it's not the same grid slot they started the Grand Prix from. There will be boards on the left-hand side, but not quite as simple as you might think if you're mid to tail.
Yeah, this is going to be so crucial.
Verstappen is in place. I think Hamilton was just going over grid spot number 8, I would estimate on that one, but he's now in place himself. So we have had officially 14 laps of this Grand Prix. This is lap 15 of 50, and we've got our second start of the Verstappen on the left-hand side of your picture.
Let's see what shit is their scores in now.
Keep it calm, Max. Keep it calm, everybody. Got to get this restart done. Got to get the revs nice.
Second row.
Forever, doesn't it? Come on. Get on the grid.
That is Nicholas Latifi right at the back. He starts P19.
Here we go then.
After a crash.
Record me someone now, please record me now. Please record me now. 1 light, 2 lights, 3 lights, 4 lights.
Above the drivers. It's
lights out, away we go.
Again, and Verstappen and Hamilton are going to be neck and neck going into turn.
Oh my God!
It's got a better start, and Hamilton goes into the first corner as Bottas looks up, almost hits Verstappen and goes off the track, and then
Lewis touch! Lewis touch! Oh my goodness me! Ocon is second up! Sergio Perez has crashed! He's out of there!
And it's Russell up.
Checo is out! Checo out of this race! Checo out! Checo out! Unbelievable! You hear this?
Safety car, because that was chaos at the start.
It was indeed, and I wouldn't be at all surprised.
And Nicholas Latifi! No, something Nicholas. Oh my goodness! Nikita Mazepin! Mazepin! Mazepin is out! Mazepin is out! George Russell is out!
The Max Verstappen has to, there's the red flag, the Max Verstappen has to give the place back.
Unbelievable!
Lewis
red flag again!
Behind Esteban Ocon. Ocon would lead it away again.
Esteban Ocon, who already this season...
Red again!
Are you okay, Maz? Are you okay?
Yeah, mate. I'm sorry, but I couldn't avoid this.
Unbelievable!
Peter Mazepin, Sergio Perez, and as you saw there, George Russell, all out of this race now as well. I was about to say Esteban Ocon, who knows a thing or two about leading in this championship season in 2021. 65 laps he led of the Hungarian Grand Prix on his way to victory. We'll wait to see the replays before we play a game of Martin Brundle, the steward, because I think that start will be discussed over and over again in the steward's room, and well, we should join in that fun as well.
Well, let's see some replays of it and see who had the line, who was in front, and I suspect very much it's going to be Lewis Hamilton, who got a much better start, and Max just basically went down the outside, and he will say was pushed wide. Came back onto the track before the exit of the first corner.
Ocon in second. Ocon in second.
From that angle, way in front, wasn't he?
He was. And it's how do the stewards look at this? Hamilton definitely got the better starts. You could argue, so he should. His tyres were probably a bit warmer.
And Ocon is. Ocon's fucking second.
Didn't give me space, but Hamilton owned that corner.
Now, in the stewards' room are 4 stewards, one of whom is Tonio Liuzzi, who was also a driver steward, I think, in Brazil.
Oh wow, unbelievable.
The whole curve. Just retook me over outside the white line.
Roger Lewis, yep, we're on it.
And you
we're on it.
Yeah, copy, we're on it.
And
that's a penalty. That is a penalty. That's a penalty. Straight penalty.
About that first corner in a moment. This is Sergio Perez. We've already seen
that is a pen. That is a penalty. Come on. It cost all curve.
Perez gets a bit.
It cost all curve. It cost all curve or whatever.
3 into 2 doesn't go.
Very lucky that he didn't get hit as he was facing at right angles across the track.
Unfortunately, though, he's got some kind of transmission issue. He won't go much further than that.
Is on board with Charles Leclerc. There's the lock-up from Valtteri Bottas.
We're not even going to get this race, don't I, Matthew?
Bottas off the road as well.
Yeah. Leclerc that tags Perez. Yes, it is. Now it's the AlphaTauri to speed past.
And of course, critical for the Constructors' Championship as well.
Very much so. Oh, no!
Oh!
You don't want to do that. And there were fears going into this race. Several drivers were expressing their concern that if there was an incident, they would be arriving at the scene of it without any chance to take avoiding action. And that is what happened there. George Russell was the car ahead, and Nikita Mazepin going into the back of the Williams.
We've been nervous all weekend, haven't we? Let's be honest.
Unbelievable.
Drivers had spoken out about this track. They love driving it in terms of the speed, but there are a lot of blind corners, and it is very narrow, and it is, Martin, very fast.
Look at Max. Butter wouldn't melt in his mouth, would it, right now?
I think he heard you.
What are the stewards going to say about that's an old English expression, I don't know if that's it.
Unbelievable.
In other words, he looks
crazy scenes.
Innocent.
Yes.
But
well, look, Max did exactly what you would have expected him to do in that moment, because he's fighting for the lead of the race and the lead of the World Championship. But was it fair in your opinion?
That's ridiculous. Max should be given penalty.
The corner, and Max got off the brakes. Sounds a little bit like turn 4 in Brazil, doesn't it? But
Checo was out
clearly than that, and Max effectively took the lead by running off the corner. What he did do was come back on before the end of the first one. He didn't just scamper all the way through. So let's see what the stewards say about it. But the fascinating thing for me here is Esteban Ocon right in the middle of it. So if you start giving places back, Ocon is, as I pointed out, is there, because to give a place back to Hamilton means that Ocon leads, because they can't penalise Ocon.
Exactly, because he did absolutely nothing wrong. Ocon, for the second time this season, arrived into the first corner and things just parted for him. We're by the shores of the Red Sea, a bit like Moses as he walked over the Red Sea, quite frankly, and he found himself slotting through a gap, and I'll take that place. Ted Kravitz, down to you.
Checo Perez wants his car back to the pit lane.
Well, yes, because for the second time this season they might be able to fix it under a red flag.
It's that time again. So they see some damage on Charles Leclerc's sort of guilty-looking Scarlet Ferrari. Oops, sorry about that, Checo. But Checo's kind of standing there saying, "Look, guys, I know you put it there between the barriers, but can I have it back? Because we've got an outside chance of being able to fix it." I think that is an outside chance, but I don't know whether Red Bull are going to manage to do that. I had Daniel Ricciardo on the radio before he got out of the car saying, "Look, that pace going into the formation lap on the restart was so slow, everything was so cold, that if they do this again,
this is ridiculous.
They have a couple of laps behind the safety car.
They completed 2 laps
before we start again. I think, given the safety that we had on this red flag restart, I wouldn't be surprised, Crofty, if we do have a rolling start exactly for the next one. And as for Mercedes, I think they're quietly confident that these two cars, Verstappen, will be put behind Hamilton in the queue in the pit lane.
Aston Villa, I've just beaten Aston as well.
Toto Wolff's on the march here.
Toto's on the run.
I assume, as he's walking down the pit lane, he's off to have a chat.
Red Bull will say Lewis ran wide, ran him out of space, it was bona fide, he's going the outside. And obviously Mercedes will say he passed us clean off the racetrack. So that's what will be going on with that. And it's also pivotal, isn't it? It's all so critical.
In the interest of balance, let's go through this stage by stage. Verstappen getting agitated on the formation lap, and as we heard him, visibly agitated and audibly agitated on the radio, with Lewis Hamilton dropping back too far. Was that right?
You can't get an Uber when you need one, can you? Look.
That is ridiculous.
But
did Hamilton drop a bit too far back, and did that then affect Verstappen at the start?
Well, yes, there was an element of that, but he was more than his 10 places behind, and probably gave him some warmer tyres. We haven't heard a word about Bottas backing the pack up, but of course the red flag sort of neutralised that earlier on in the race. But they're all playing all the games out there tonight. Everything. A lot of them playing every trick in the book.
Hi, Michael. Hi. I'm going to give you the opportunity to start from grid position 2 for this, based on what occurred at turn 1-2.
Okay, thank you. We'll have an internal discussion on that. We felt we were pushed off there, so thank you for that. If we could have a minute to think about it.
Yep, if you can come back to me within a minute or two, that would be great.
That keeps him ahead of Hamilton.
Well, unless Hamilton and Ocon
Red Bull's been asking for standing start.
Hamilton goes to the front and then Verstappen, but that doesn't seem right. You're right.
Because this race was stopped on its first lap before it completed a lap, the restart, maybe that doesn't count. Maybe they're thinking Hamilton will be on pole and Verstappen second, and what we just saw.
Go ahead.
We would accept P2 on the basis that Ocon's on pole, correct?
We would drop you. Well, we would drop you back behind Hamilton. Is where I sit. Sorry, Jonathan.
Yeah, I thought you'd say.
No, my apologies, because I hadn't looked at it. Back behind Lewis. My offer.
I need another minute. Thank you.
You have my suggestion.
Yeah, that confused me too.
But this.
Yeah, understood, Michael.
So this is the sort of thing that would be normally played out during the course of a race, and decisions made an awful lot more quickly. They've got time during the red flag to decide amongst themselves. Race control advise sometimes give that place back again before we get the stewards involved. This is the honesty policy that Michael Massey is employing here to give Red Bull the opportunity to swap the places around before the stewards need to make a decision themselves. And we'll wait and see whether Red Bull take up that offer. But they clearly believe they were forced off the track. I don't think, based on what Michael Massey is saying there, that the stewards would think the similar view.
It's quite unusual, isn't it, to sort of have a bid of we'll offer you this, do you want to take it or not? It's quite unusual, but
I think it's the right thing to do, because you don't want to get stewards involved.
Cheers watching, guys.
If Red Bull think actually that's acceptable, but